In this video, we are going to simplify expressions such as these using sum and difference trig identities. So these have to be memorized along with these two tangent versions. So this is going to be pretty straightforward. We're looking at this expression and we're really trying to match it up with one of these identities. So notice that we have sine, cosine, cosine, sine happening. So looking at the list of trig identities, sine, cosine, cosine, sine, that's the pattern that you see when you're talking about the sign of a sum or a difference. So looking back again, notice that we have a big old plus sign right in the middle. So that means we must be talking about this version. So we're just going to be identifying what's the u and the v, because it must be sine of u plus v. So looking back here, the u and the v, so the u is really this negative u, and the v is negative 6u. And here you can see it repeated again. Alright, here's the first angle, and here is the second angle. So like I said, we should be able to rewrite this as the sine of angle plus angle. So this is negative u plus negative 6u. And these are like terms, so we should be able to write this as sine of negative 7u. And that's it. We have simplified it. Alright, so we're really just working backwards. Take a look at number 8, going crazy. I see the pattern cosine, cosine, and then sine, sine. So looking back at my list here, when you have cosine, cosine, and then sine, sine, that's the pattern you see when you have the cosine of the sum of two angles or the difference of two angles. Notice that the signs are opposite. So if I see a minus, I know it'll be plus. If I see a plus in the middle, I know it will be minus. And here I see a plus in the middle, so I know that it must be minus. So it's going to be a cosine of angle minus angle. Now the first angle I see right here is this negative 5 theta. That's my first angle, so negative 5 theta. And then it should be minus, and then the second angle is 2 theta. And these are like terms, so I should be able to combine this further as the cosine of negative 7 theta. And that's it. We have simplified it. Okay, how about number 9? Well, we have tangent this time, so it should be pretty easy to spot. Whoops, wrong button. Alright, so the sign of the numerator is going to match. So if I see a plus, I know it'll be tangent of angle plus angle. If I see a minus right here, I know it'll be tangent of angle minus angle. And I see a minus, so it should be the tangent of angle minus angle. Okay, so it's going to be the tangent of 4u minus 3u. These are like terms, so I can simplify further and write the tangent of u. 4u minus 3u is just u. So it all simplifies down to this. Okay, similarly, here, same situation, but this time I see a plus. So this time it's going to be tangent angle plus angle. And here's the first angle, and here is the second angle. So it'll be tangent of 6u plus negative u. And these are like terms, so this will simplify further as the tangent of 5u. Alright, and that's it for number 10, simplified. Okay, for number 11, we're back to cosine, cosine, sine, sine. So that is the pattern that you see when you're dealing with the cosine of a sum or a difference. Cosine, cosine, sine, sine. Again, remember that the signs are opposite. So if I see a negative, I know it'll be plus. If I see a plus here in the middle, I know it will be minus. So what do we have? I see this minus here in the middle, so I know it's going to be cosine of angle plus angle. So cosine, and so here's my first angle, and here is my second angle. Alright, so it's going to be cosine of 4x plus negative 3x. Alright, angle plus angle. And these are like terms, so I can simplify further by writing cosine x, just cosine x actually. Don't need parentheses or anything when it's this simple. Okay, and this is going to be a short video because this will be the last one. Okay, so here I see sine, cosine, cosine, sine. And that's the pattern that we see when it's the sine of the sum or difference of two angles. Sine, cosine, cosine, sine. And the signs match. So if it's plus, it'll be plus. If it's minus, it'll be minus. So here I see this minus in the middle. So I know that it's going to be the sine of angle minus angle. And the first angle is negative 6v. And the second angle is negative 5v. So I know it's going to be the sine of angle minus angle. Alright, now this is interesting because I have minus a negative. And actually when you subtract a negative, it's the same as addition. So this would be the same thing as sine of negative 6v plus 5v. That's the same exact thing. And negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. So the simplified version of this would be sine of negative v. I was going to stop at number 12, but these last few problems are so similar, let's just keep going. So we're going to do basically the same thing. We're going to simplify, but then there will be one extra step because we should be able to find the exact value at the end. But first I see cosine, cosine, sine, sine. So which formula is that? Well, it's going to be one of these two. See the cosine, cosine, sine, sine, and remember how the signs are opposite. So as I look and I see that this is subtraction, that tells me that it should be cosine of an angle plus another angle. Okay, because of the way they're opposite. So I see the two angles, and the first angle is pi over 18. So I'm going to go cosine of pi over 18 plus 7 pi over 36. Okay, so this is an equivalent expression. Now, I want to go ahead and add these together, so I'm going to need like denominators. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to multiply by 2 in the numerator and the denominator. Okay, so there I've done it. So now I have cosine of. So this is 2 pi over 36 plus 7 pi over 36. Well, that would be 9 pi over 36. And 9 goes into 36 4 times. So this would be the same thing as cosine pi over 4. And this is one of the values we have memorized. We know that the cosine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. Or you could have said 1 over radical 2. Alright, so that's it for number 13. Alright, how about number 14? Well, this is obviously going to involve the tangent formula. And when we do the tangent formula, the sign of the numerator, alright, is going to match the sign in terms of whether or not you're adding or subtracting the two angles. So as I look at this problem, I see in the numerator it's addition. So that tells me that it's going to be an addition problem. So this is going to be the same thing as tangent of the first angle. Alright, 13 pi over 18 plus the second angle, which is pi over 9. Alright, that matches the formula. So I want to be able to actually add this, so like denominators, don't you know? I'm going to multiply by 2 in the numerator and the denominator. So I have 18. Okay, so that means I have the tangent of 13 pi over 18 plus 2 pi over 18 is going to be 15 pi over 18. Well, both of these are divisible by 3. So if I divide both of these by 3, dividing by 3, that's going to give me tangent of 5 pi over 6. Okay, this I can work with because I see the reference angle is pi over 6. So in fact, what is the tangent of pi over 6? Ignore the 5 for a second. Now we have memorized that the tangent of pi over 6 is radical 3 over 3. Or sometimes we say 1 over radical 3. That means the tangent of 5 pi over 6 is either going to be positive radical 3 over 3 or it will be negative radical 3 over 3. It's going to be one of those, not both. I have to decide which one it is. And the way I can decide is by looking at a diagram and considering the quadrant that we're in. We're talking about pi over 6's as a reference angle, so I'm just going to draw a quick diagram. In fact, it's going to be so quick that it's probably going to be a little messy. So bear with me because it doesn't have to be that accurate to be useful. Okay, so we got a bunch of pi over 6's. 6 pi over 6 would be right here. So 5 pi over 6 would be right here. That's in the second quadrant. And we know that tangent is negative in the second quadrant. Alright, because tangent is positive here and here, and it's negative here and here. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and go with negative radical 3 over 3. Alright, so and that's it. Negative radical 3 over 3. Or sometimes I say negative 1 over radical 3. That's the same thing. Okay, so that was number 14. Okay, number 15, what's happening here? I see the pattern that says sine, cosine, cosine, sine. Alright, that tells me that it's going to be one of these first two. And the signs should match. If it's addition in the middle, it's going to be addition. If it's subtraction in the middle, it's going to be subtraction. Okay, so here I see that it is subtraction in the middle. Boom. So it's going to be subtraction. So that tells me that I can rewrite this as the sine of the first angle, 10 pi over 9, minus the second angle, 13 pi over 36. I would like to combine these, so I'm going to need like denominators. To get 36, I'm going to have to multiply this by 4. So I'll do that. But then that means I'll have to multiply the numerator by 4 as well. Okay, so now I have the sine of. I'll go ahead and show the steps. So now I have 40 pi over 36 minus 13 pi over 36. Okay, so what's that? So I've got sine of so 27 pi over 36. Now both of these are divisible by 9. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both of these by 9. So that's going to give me, alright, sine of 3 pi over 4. Sine of 3 pi over 4. Now this I can work with. The reference angle is pi over 4. So the sine of pi over 4 is radical 2 over 2. Okay, aka 1 over radical 2. So that means the sine of 3 pi over 4 is either going to be positive radical 2 over 2, or it might be negative radical 2 over 2. I'm not sure. So I look at a diagram to remind myself of the quadrant that we're in. The quadrant will determine whether it's positive or negative. So here's a quick diagram of pi over 4s. Okay, 3 pi over 4 would be right here in the second quadrant. Sine is positive in this quadrant because sine is a y value and this is above the x-axis. So that's why I will erase this negative mark and just put radical 2 over 2 for the final answer. Alright, so that is the final answer for number 15. Okay, number 16. Cosine, cosine, sine, sine. When I see that pattern, I know I'm going to be dealing with one of these bottom two. It's either going to be cosine of angle plus angle or cosine of angle minus angle. Alright, because these are the ones that go cosine, cosine, sine, sine. But the sines, the middle sign is the opposite. So what do I have? This is addition. So that tells me that instead of addition, it's going to be subtraction. So I should be able to rewrite this as the cosine of the first angle minus the second angle. So that'll be the cosine of 2 pi over 9 minus pi over 18. Okay, to do the subtraction, I need like denominators, so I'm going to multiply by 2 in the numerator and the denominator. So now I have the cosine of 4 pi over 18 minus pi over 18. Okay, so that's going to be the cosine of, and this is like 4 minus 1, so this will be 3 pi over 18. Now, 3 goes into 18 6 times. So this would be the same thing as the cosine of pi over 6. Alright, just reducing 3 into 18. And we have memorized that the cosine of pi over 6 is radical 3 over 2. So that's the answer for number 16. Alright, 17. Clearly this is the tangent formula that's being illustrated here. And as far as whether we will be adding or subtracting the two angles, you go by the sign in the numerator. So I know this will be the same thing as tangent of angle plus angle. So that means the tangent of 7 pi over 9 plus 2 pi over 9. And they were kind enough to give us like denominators already. So this is going to be the same thing as tangent of 9 pi over 9, which is the same thing as tangent of pi. Now pi, that's a quadrantal angle. So taking a look at my diagram, okay, pi is right here. This is the point -1, 0. Tangent is the y value divided by the x value. So in this case that would be 0 over -1, which is 0. So 0 is the answer. Okay, last problem. I see the pattern sine, cosine, cosine, sine. So when I see that, I know I'm going to be dealing with one of these. Sine of angle plus angle or sine of angle minus angle. And the middle sign matches. If I see a plus, I will add. If I see a minus, I will subtract. So look, right in the middle I see a plus, so I'm going to add. So this should be the same thing as sine of angle plus angle. So that's going to be the sine of 5 pi over 18 plus 2 pi over 9. In order to add these, I need like denominators, so I'm going to have to multiply by 2 in the numerator and the denominator. So this will now be sine of 5 pi over 18 plus 4 pi over 18. Okay, so adding these together, I get sine of 9 pi over 18 but 9 goes into 18 twice, so this is the same thing as sine of pi over 2. Alright, now that is a quadrantal angle. So let's look at a diagram to remind us of how this goes. Okay, pi over 2 is right here at the very top, and this is the point 0 comma 1. Sine is the y value of a point on the unit circle. So the y value right here, of course, is 1. So that's why the answer is going to simply be 1. Alright, that's it, guys. I hope this video was helpful, and I will see you on the next video.